Hello my friends and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my anticipated releases for quarter two. So we're talking April, May, and June. I keep going back and forth between, am I going to share these in videos? Am I writing posts over on Substack? I wrote a Substack post for the first few months. Now I'm doing a video, partially because there's just so many good books coming out that I want to talk about, and I really want to get good exposure, and not as many people read my Substack posts as watch videos, so here I am. And then at the end of the video I will share some of my recent reads, one of which is one of these books on this anticipated releases video, so stay tuned. We will be starting out with April. I do not have the exact dates of these written down, but I will have them linked to Amazon, so the date will be over there. There's quite a few for April. It's kind of crazy. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, I think, for April. And I've already read 3 of them. Yeah. So it's a good month for releases. The first one I have to share is Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man. This one is book 2 after Vera Wong's Guide, what was it, Advice for Murderers? Now I'm totally blanking on what book 1 was. I really enjoyed book 1, so I'm looking forward to book 2, but book 1 like almost crossed some lines for me, so I'm like hesitantly excited about it. Also just worried that it might be one that I DNF. But Vera Wong is an old lady that has a tea house. Her name is Vera Wong, but her tea house is Vera Wang's tea shop or something. I don't remember what it was called, because she's totally just trying to rip off Vera Wang. She thinks people will like that. And she comes across a dead body in book 1 and tries to solve a mystery. I'm assuming the same thing's kind of going to happen in book 2. I really liked her. She has a son, I think in his 30s, and she was like constantly thinking about how kids these days don't respect their parents, and like she just seemed like the very stereotypical older Asian lady. And I really like mysteries that have older ladies like Mrs. Polifax, Miss Marple, so that checked a lot of those boxes for me. And I'm just really hoping that book 2 continues to be not crossing some lines that I wanted to cross, so we'll see. Hesitantly excited, optimistic but cautious, trying to keep my excitement down a little bit. Then we've got The Curious Inheritance of Blakely House by Joanna Davidson Politano. This one, I feel like all of hers have been Edwardian time period, except I think this one might be a little bit different. I don't have the description up here right now. Why don't I get it? Because I don't remember anything actually. I did not love her last release, so once again I'm kind of like excited but trying to like tamper that a little bit. So okay, we're in 1901 when clockmaker and brilliant tinker Sidney Forster inherits Blakely House, the eclectic estate of an estranged uncle she's never met. The well-known but mysterious industrialist has left behind a stunning array of peculiar inventions and a couple of nephews intent on removing the interloper from the estate. So I'm not really sure, like I've loved some of her books and not some others, so, and it kind of seems to go every other one. So in theory, I should love this one. So I'm definitely going to read it. And then we've got Tempest at Annabel's Lighthouse. This is a book that I've read, that I read this last week. I'll talk about what it's about now, and then I'll share my thoughts in my wrap-up section here if you want to skip ahead to hear my thoughts. I will have the timestamps below for you to go ahead and skip around. But Tempest at Annabel's Lighthouse, like all of Jimmy Jo Wright's books, has dual timeline. This one has like a slight third perspective in there, but like maybe 3 times throughout the book or something, very, very little. So present day, we're with this woman named Shay. She's staying at this lighthouse. She's renting it for the summer or something because she wants to write a book on the history of this lighthouse. And there's this ghost story that kind of goes with it. And then she kind of, you know, stumbles across more history. And then I don't remember what the other time period is, but we're with Rebecca. And at the beginning of the book, she wakes up next to a grave and she doesn't remember anything. She knows there was people after her that were bad, and she ends up at this grave right outside the lighthouse, and the people of the lighthouse take her in as she tries to regain her memories. I do like the amnesia trope. I really like following a character and discovering with them who they are. I think it's a really cool way to get to know a character. Yeah, and then the third person is Annabel, and she is supposed to be this ghost that haunts the lighthouse. And every chapter, or at least Shay's chapters, start with a line or two of the poem Annabel Lee from Edgar Allan Poe, which is a really great haunting poem. So that was like added to some of the atmosphere. My thoughts will be later. Then we've got The Other Sister by Jessica R. Patch. I've already raved about this a few times. I read it over Christmas break-ish, and it ended up on one of my favorites from 2024. So I've talked about it a bunch of times, but we end up finding out that our main character, pretty much right off the bat, finds out she has a twin. The main character, has lived with this mother, like her biological mother, her whole life, and her mom was a drug addict, so she ended up in foster care, kind of in and out. But she finds out that her twin sister was adopted into a really rich family. And the rich sister comes out to meet her and ends up getting murdered. And so our main character decides to go take her place. And I've talked about how I don't really think that a twin could take another person's place without people realizing it. I think people that are close would recognize the difference, but if you just pretend that everybody is fooled, it makes for a really interesting read. This is definitely one of Jessica R. Patch's more gritty books, for sure. She's going more into the thriller side of things than the Christian suspense kind of where she's been before, but I think she did it really well. It had me guessing so much, and I kept thinking like maybe this, maybe that. I was so wrong. Then we've got Rune by Victoria McCombs. This one is a Viking fantasy kind of story where our main character is one of this Viking clan, although the clans are very, they want to be very strong. You want to be well known for being strong, even as a woman. And our main character has kind of like asthma or something, so she's not very strong. And right at the beginning of the book, her love, that they have like professed their love to each other, proposes to her sister. And she is broken. She goes out to this vineyard and like curses the gods, the Viking gods, and then all of a sudden one of them appears and says, hey, it's you. I've been looking for you like your whole life. You're one of the gods or something like that. And then she gets whisked away into that realm. Very interesting. One of my favorites of Victoria McCombs. I'm not sure if it bumps out the Mortal Queens, like if it's top above her Mortal Queens, Lethal Kings, or like they're very neck and neck. Very good. Really enjoyed it. Then we have Illuminary. This is one that I have not read, and this is by Shauna Schroeder? I don't remember. And this is being published by Enclave. What really makes me interested is, first of all, the cover is beautiful. Second, I've heard that it's inspired by a Little Princess, and so I'm so in. I have read the description of the book, and like sometimes I don't understand how that's going to turn into a story. Like sometimes the back of the book is an interesting thing, the synopsis. Sometimes it's like, whoa, you gave away too many details. Sometimes it's like, I don't get what you're saying, and it doesn't mean the book's not good, but I don't know. I feel like I would write them differently. So I don't understand what this one's about. other than it's apparently inspired by A Little Princess, so I want to read it really soon. So hopefully I can. I have it on my Kobo ready to read. I have the advanced reader's copy. I just, you know, only have so much time in the day, so hopefully I can get to it soon. Another one I have a copy of, but I have not read yet, is The Beat I Drum, which my brain wants to call it The Drum I Beat, so that's going to be a problem for me. This is by Dusty Bowling, and this is a middle grade book. If you have heard me talk about Dusty Bowling before, I do have one of her books on my middle grade March physical TBR, but she's most well known, I think, for her momentous events in the life of a cactus. That's book number 2. Insignificant events in the life of a cactus is book number 1. There is a character, a side character, the best friend of our main character in there named Connor. He has Tourette's. And this book, The Beat I Drum, did I say that right now? The Beat I Drum, yes, is a story about Connor, the best friend. So he is going to the first day of high school. So I'm hoping it's going to be just as good as her other duology. Then we've got one that I'm not sure about. It's Gary D. Schmidt, but it's Gary D. Schmidt with another author. And whenever an author I love pairs up with someone, I'm always like, ooh, is it going to be as good or not? So this is another middle grade book. It's called A Day at the Beach. This is by Gary D. Schmidt and Ron Kurtage? I don't really know. And it says, here's what's so cool about the beach. Kids are everywhere. Kids you know, kids you want to know. Wandering from one blanket to another, from one family to another. Somebody's mom reads a fat summer novel, somebody's dad snores with an iPad on his chest, etc. So this is apparently, they're thoughtful vignettes, brilliantly weave together an irresistible tale of tween conflict and connections. I don't know, it sounds very different, so it might be good or it might just fall a little short. I'm not sure. Now we are moving on to May, and I only have one book in the month of May, which, as someone who has that as a birthday month, I'm a little disappointed that there is only one book coming out. And it is a dystopian book published once again by Enclave. This is War Safe by Lauren Smith. And so I do like dystopian. I am very intrigued. I definitely want to read it. It says there's one building on her island that Hallie has never visited, the Mercenary House. Perched atop a mountain surrounded by unnaturally evergreen foliage, the house is rumored to be a breeding ground for criminals. Mercenaries are liars, cheats, spies, and maybe, depending who you ask, killers. At the WarSafe headquarters in Seattle, Roscoe is beta testing the company's new video game. It's her job to track down glitches, but something is different about this one. Lurking behind the lines of malfunctioning code is a secret that threatens to drag her deeper into the game, forcing her to put her life on the line if she ever wants to come home. Worlds collide as Roscoe teams up with Hallie to uncover the island's secret and expose WarSafe's designs. So, definitely going to read that. Just sad that there's only one book in all of May. I mean, I definitely could be missing books, but this is what I have on my list. For June, we have only a few. The first one is One Final Turn by Ashley Weaver. I read this one months ago already. This is the last book in the Electra McDonnell series. So this is a espionage mystery type series set during World War II. Our main character is a safecracker. She uses her talents for good in the locksmith industry, but then also for bad in lockpicking and safe breaking, and then turns to help the government throughout the series. So it's book 5. I won't say what actually happens in book 5. There is a personal story of hers that continues through the whole series. Her mother was convicted of killing her father before Electra was born. Her mother was found wandering the streets with a bloody knife and her husband's blood all over her. And then her mom went to prison. Electra was born in prison and then raised by her uncle along with her boy cousins, and then her mother died in prison. And so like there is this, Electra her mom always said she was innocent, and her uncle believes her mom was innocent, so through the books she's also trying to figure out that mystery. I really liked the series. I'm glad it didn't continue longer. I don't know if I've ever, in the last 5 years since I've been on BookTube, have committed to such a long series and finished it so succinctly, like before the series is even all the way out. Normally I feel like book series tend to drag on, and I didn't feel that with this one. So I think that's pretty high praise. Then we've got A Terribly Nasty Business by Julia Seals. Okay, so this one I'm going to read, but I'm like also a little leery. So this is the second book. The first one was called A Most Agreeable Murder. So it was like a Victorian, maybe a Regency era, because it had some Pride and Prejudice vibes. It was a locked room mystery at parts of it. Our main character is really into mysteries and stuff, but she is in a time period where young women should not be interested in that kind of thing. And it was really well done. There were just a few parts that were a little strange. Like, they live in this marshy area. Oh, I don't even remember the details. Yeah, and so some parts were just a little strange. And I'm curious to see if that continues in the second book, or are we leaving that part behind? Okay, I've got 2 more. This one, no wait, 3 more. A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim. So she wrote 6 Crimson Cranes and something else that I've read. So we've got another fantasy book. I'm assuming it's Asian inspired fantasy, because that is what her other ones have been. I'm totally blanking on what her other one was that I've read. Anyway, this one, our main character, Truyan, didn't choose to become a con artist, but after her father is lost at sea, it's up to her to support her mother and 2 younger sisters. She's a gifted art forger. Ooh, I really enjoyed the whole con artist thing, so not sure what that says about me, but that intrigues me. A gifted art forger, True has the unique ability to paint the future, but even such magic is not enough to put her family back together or stave off the gangsters demanding payment in blood for her mother's gambling debts. Left with few options, True agrees to a marriage contract with a mysterious dragon lord. Okay, that's all I'm gonna read. Yeah, I feel like that checks a few boxes for me. I have mentioned fairly recently that I do enjoy the marriage of convenience trope, even though I don't like the term, and the whole con artist thing. I'm intrigued. She has proven to be a good writer before. Then we've got a graphic novel by Marissa Meyer. This is what intrigued me. We Could Be Magic. And this is about a teen who, when Tabitha was growing up, a visit to Summerland saved her belief in true love, even as her parents' marriage was falling apart. Now she's landed her dream job as the theme park's prestigious summer program, where she can make magical memories for other kids, guests, and superfans just like her. All she has to do is audition for one of the coveted princess roles, and soon her dreams will come true. Yeah, so I don't know, it's Marissa Meyer. Always interested in reading more from her. And then my last one is The Codebreaker's Daughter by Amy Lynn Green. She is another author that I'm like split. Sometimes I enjoy her books, sometimes I don't. But code breaking is interesting. So we've got Dina Kendall. Her role in the US Capitol for the Office of Strategic Services is far from the thrilling espionage career she dreamed of. Also espionage, that's another buzzword for me. Instead of covert missions, she crafts rumors aimed at undermining Axis morale while trying to live up to the expectations of her demanding mother, Lillian. Yet, as Dina navigates her duties, she uncovers a startling, I don't know, must be secret or something, because there's a missing word here, obviously. Lillian was once a codebreaker, breaking military ciphers during the Great War alongside some of the nation's most brilliant minds. The deeper Dina dives into her mother's journal, the more the secrets of the past come to light, including the heavy costs of high-stakes code breaking. Okay, yeah, so because of the code breaking aspect, and if she's reading her mother's journal, there might be some journal pages in there. Amy Lynn Green, my favorite book of hers was mostly letters and newspaper articles and like that kind of thing. So if she's gonna add some of that in, that would be great. Now that is all for my anticipated releases for April, May, and June. If you guys have some coming up in those 3 months, I would love to hear it. If I've missed some, which I always do, I would love to hear what those are. And right now I'm going to wrap up A few of the books, well, all of the books I've finished up until this point, but I think I should have another one or two to tack on to the end of here that I will film a different day. The first one I finished is a homeschool book. Actually, it's A Waking Wonder by Sally Clarkson. I won't really talk very long about this because this was my third read through. So obviously it's a favorite book of mine. The subtitle is Opening Your Child's Heart to the Beauty of Learning. This was one of my books that I wanted to reread this year, and it's just encouraging, a little bit convicting. Like I found more things to like highlight, so I have a bunch of highlights throughout here, and then I'll like, I don't know if you can see, there's just a bunch that I found to highlight this time that I haven't highlighted before, and some that I was like, okay, I need to underline this again. It's very inspiring for both the educational standpoint of homeschooling, but like raising children, the moral, the faith, like every aspect of parenting and homeschooling and raising children. So if you homeschool or want to and you haven't read this book, I would very highly recommend it. Then I finished my first middle grade March read, and this is The Road to After by Rebecca Lowell. This is a free verse story, which we'll talk about that first. I have read a lot of free verse novels. I really enjoyed them. This did not feel like a free verse novel. This felt like a regular novel, but they just spaced things, like they pressed enter in the middle of a line so that it would look like free verse. So I enjoyed the book, don't get me wrong here, but this didn't feel like a free verse novel. I don't know if it really should be a free verse novel. It felt just like a regular one, but they broke up the lines. Usually there's a little bit less filler words in free verse novels. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but in this one, our main character, she's 11 or so, I think, and right at the beginning, her and her 4-ish-year-old sister, who has not spoken yet, and her mother are getting removed from their home. The father, it's like a very abusive situation. It feels very cultish because he wouldn't let them leave the house. Like there's, like it's a lot of abuse stuff, but it feels like a cult, kind of like small scale. But the mom made some secret plans and got them away. And so this is their time, pretty much about a year after being removed, and like the healing that occurs. You know, they first go live with their grandparents, and then the mom wants to get a degree, so they go to another place for her to do some school, and like, you know, the challenges they encounter with not really having interacted with people before, not being allowed to, just lots of different things. A lot of like dealing with trauma and trying to recover from that. Really well done. And then when I got to the afterword, I found out that this is based off of the author's true story. So she was in a domestic abuse situation with her kids, I believe. So she's kind of like the mother in this situation, which it just makes it so much more powerful. I wish that a lot of times that stuff would be written or included before I read the book, because I would generally like it more then. That reminds me of the book by Susan May Warren, where it's about this woman that's in witness protection program. What's the book called? It's the one and only Susan May Warren book I've read, and I can't think of the title, so I'll pop it up here. And like witness protection, very interesting to begin with. But then in the afterword, you realize this whole book was inspired because one time she was on an airplane. She was sitting next to an older woman that was going to say goodbye to her daughter because her daughter was going into witness protection. And the mother didn't know when she was going to see her again. I was like, man, I wish I would have known that throughout this whole book. And that's how I felt about this as well. I just wish I would have known that this was based off a true story. It was good. It was very heavy, but I think it was very well done. I really liked that our main character, she really healed through nature, learning about birds. They weren't allowed to go outside without their dad's permission before, or so pretty much ever. So she starts to learn the birds, and she does some drawing, and there's like a lot of nature aspects of it too that I really like. So if you're looking for a quick, very quick middle grade March read, I would recommend it. Okay, and then the last book that I finished is The Tempest at Annabel's Lighthouse. The last book for now. I'm pretty sure I should finish like another one or two, hopefully, before I share this video. So I already described what the book was about earlier. Okay, so our main character in the modern times, Shay, she is at this lighthouse to do this writing. Right off the bat, she's complaining about her husband who didn't really want to come with her on this trip, or he's not comfortable with change, so he's at home. She's just kind of like ragging on him a little bit. And then the guy that's renting this house to her, she's got like an attraction to. So right off the bat, I was like, I don't think Jamie Jo Wright's gonna take this to an area where I don't want it to go, but like, I was worried. And then our main character kept talking about like self-care and how much she just needed to take care of herself, and that part was really annoying me. Okay, this is slightly spoilery, so if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead like 20 seconds. Thankfully, nothing happens in regards to her attraction to this guy that she's renting the house from, and she does have a lot of character growth. But a lot of my thoughts through the book were just like tense, worried she was going to do something about it. Thankfully it didn't happen. Other than that, like, I really enjoyed the past timeline as we were with Rebecca. I enjoyed finding out about her as she found out about herself, because she couldn't remember. That is always an interesting trope for me, like the amnesia trope. So I really liked her timeline. I really liked how things played out there. And then the only thing is the ending, I was like, wait, what? And obviously it's the ending, so I can't say anything. But if things turned out the way that I think they did, or if that like there was like one line, then I'm like, that, and I don't think it ruins the whole book or anything like that. But I think if what I read is right, I'm a little disappointed in that as well. So unfortunately, it's not one of my favorite books by Jamie Jo Wright. Thankfully, she has lots of other great ones out there. I liked certain aspects of it, but just not an absolute favorite. Okay, and then I should be back, hopefully in a couple days, sharing a couple more books, a book or two, we'll see. Okay, popping in with one more book to update you on. It's a middle grade book, so they're quick reads. March always has a bigger stack of books because so many middle grade books means quicker reads, means more books. If you're curious about how I've decided on the order that I'm reading my middle grade books this month, I filmed a video for Patreon where I read the first 10 lines of most of the middle grade books that are kind of on my stack for this month, my pile of possibilities. I shared a lot of those books in a previous video. I read the first 10 lines and I ranked them, and I found that there are some childhood prejudices of mine that were pretty strong. There was a certain topic that made a book go to the very bottom of the stack, which was kind of funny. I didn't realize I had all these internal feelings. But that is how I am reading the order I'm reading the books in, minus I didn't read the first lines of books that are in a series because I didn't want to give any spoilers for anyone. So the next one that I read was Restart. This one actually was the best first lines, but I had already started The Road to After, or whatever that one was called. So this one has some great first 10 lines. It is about a kid named Chase. He fell off of the roof of his house and lost his memory, and they didn't think he was even gonna make it, but he woke up and they found out that he has amnesia. So we've got the amnesia trope again, and so we got to be with Chase as he discovered who he is. He quickly learns, and we learn, that he was kind of a terrible person before he fell off the roof, and that's not who he is anymore. He used to be this football jock that bullied some people so much that one of the kids actually went to boarding school as a result. He was just a terrible guy. And then he kind of comes back and he realizes, oh, he actually like some of the people that he used to bully. I mean, they're terrified of him, but he just does a 180, a complete personality change, and it's very interesting to see him realizing like the kind of person that he used to be. Ironically, I just had a kid interruption and now I feel like I have amnesia, which is a common thing for me because I just have a terrible memory. Anyway, Restart, really good. It's told mostly from Chase's perspective, but we do get some other people's perspectives. We get the some chapters from some of the kids that were bullied, some chapters from the football guys that were his friends before, and it's just really good. There's some like laugh out loud lines, and I really enjoyed watching Chase discover who he was and then who he was going to be. You know, is he going to revert back to his old self? Is he going to stay the way he is now? Like, all that stuff. Yeah, so this was a fairly quick read, very enjoyable, definitely recommend it. I'm totally putting it on my 11-year-old's list for school for next year because I think he'll really enjoy it as well. So definitely recommend it. And then that is all for this video. That's all the books that I read, all the books I'm anticipating coming up in the next few months. I would love to hear what you've been reading in the last week, any great books, anything you'd recommend based off of the books I enjoyed this time. Thanks for hanging out with me again.